So this morning's program is Richard and I will do our main talks. There'll be time for questions and answers from the audience, so anything that we've said that you might be interested from you can ask in the question and answer time. After we've talked, Brooke Kongsai will speak, and he's speaking on behalf of P.S. Halkip. And then after that we have the evangelist, is it Lin Boy from Manipur, and then we'll have a short break. We'll have some tea and snacks, and I have a video from Wu Domin in China who's been to the Kuangmin west of Chengdu, where I believe the ancestors of the Mizo and all of the hill tribe people from the northeast came from. And so he's got a documentary, and so while we're having tea and snacks, I'll put that on and we can watch that. So I'm going to have this translated into Mizo, because this is a very the topic of my talk has a very great interest for Mizoram. So May is going to translate as I go. The subject of my talk is oral histories intersecting to build a picture of ancient Israel in Asia. And particularly I'll be talking about memories of a lost book, dwelling in a cave, and Israelite customs amongst those people.
Voina kan thu pui tur chu Asia rama Israel thate anun lu dan le kha oka anin shil dan ani tlang pui.
There's a very long myth over in Israel amongst the Jews that the lost 10 tribes crossed a river called the Sambattan River, and they're on the other side and they can't come back. So there's a myth within Judaism on that. Many people believe that river may be the Taklamakan Desert, which is west of China. And there's a picture of the sand dunes looking like a river.
Juda ho ina anin zirtir na le tun thengan soina chuanin khang nam som bo te khanin Asia khumal puyan lu don khanin lui pakhadan kana chu sambotian luian tia chu voini thlenghian an lai in shil chhong zelania chumi a chang chuanin an thate am bo dang kha anin hlanda nani a omani.
The sound okay? Okay, so the things I'll be going through is Israelite customs, lost book stories, cave dwelling legends, Manasseh as a name, escaping a big wall, and some linguistic similarities.
Ti chuan voina hiam pun sang karon soidona chung te chu Israel nam dan te lekhabu bo chanchin te pu ka nom thu te Manasseh te le banglian takan tlan chia dan te le chong sang khat in anga omzia te karon soyanga.
Okay, so the first part, Israelite customs. Here's a map from Rabbi Avikail, and the lower dotted lines are the lines that he thinks that the Israelites came to China through.
Tuna screen in huang hianin hetilaya hianin Israel how te kha anun tlan lu dan le engkong yan hon zoti kha in huthenga.
Okay, and so the northern kingdom of Israel went into captivity between 740 and 720 BCE.
Marlam leram te kha saltana nom khanin BC zasari som li changa zasari som ni inkara khanan salantanga.
Okay. All right. So first I want to talk about is the Karen Israel identity. In the early 1800s, Dr. and Mrs. Mason found remarkable evidence that the Karens were Israelite. They had accurate traditions of the creation and fall and future regeneration of man.
Amasa chuanin Karen le Israel namte ina na kanena nga kum sangka zaria tirla ma khanin Mrs Mason te chuanin Israel le I Karen hote in nam inan dan te an hua an nam zia rang zong te kha anwa mu chwaka.
They had a legend of crossing a river of running sand and coming from a place called Tibi Kobe, which many people think is Tibet and the Gobi Desert.
Chung an thon thu Karen ho thon thu a chuanin lui pakhadan kana chu Tibi Kobe a chengin rong kala ni an tia ma se tun lai mi te chuanin su Tibet a oma Gobi thale ra om ni nan sha.
Okay, here's a picture of the Taklamakan Desert near the Gobi Desert.
Helaya lem kan huang hianin hei hi Tibi Kobe a thale kha nia.
What's interesting about the Karen is that in 2010, their year, because they started dating themselves many, many years ago, was 2,749. And so what it means is that the year that they started counting was 739 BC, the very year after the Northern Kingdom went into captivity.
Kum sang ni som kha anta chuanin kum sang ni zali zasari somli pakwa nia chu an kum chiar chan na kha kum zasari som thum pakwa BC khani na langa chan su kha ka marlam lalram kha saltan na lut chat kum kha nia.
Okay, here's one of the many chants that the Karen have. Now, I have a book, I have a chapter of a book that has many, many different chants from the Karen in Burma. And if you come to me afterwards, I have a QR code and you can download that book onto your phone after the break. This is one of the poems. When the Karen king arrives, there will be one monarch, one king. There will be neither rich nor poor. Everything will be happy. The beasts will be happy. The lions and the leopards will lose their savageness.
Ampoin pakhadan thu an hla pakhada cho heti hanan zaka Karen lal kha ron kir le huna chuanin lalbi kanom to lawanga million le mi re theyanom to lawanga mi zong an hlimanga ni nang tang to do na ching hia le se ke bak nei te pon tla za to ang ti nan soya.
So the next people group I want to talk about is the Guangmin. Now these people are just west of Chengdu in China. And the history says that in 1860, Dr. McGowan read a paper before the British Association saying that there was a colony of Jews west of Chengdu, and he thought that the Karen may have come from them.
Guangmin te hi Chengdu China o mania kum sang ka zariat som ru khani Dr. McGowan khani British Association am paper kha lo chhar khani khang nam te kha Israel nam bo te an ni thu ring hala.
So about 100 years later, in the early 1900s, a Scottish missionary by the name of Reverend Thomas T. Torrance lived amongst these people, the Chiang men, and he thought that they were ancient Israelites.
Tiswang kum sang ka zakwa som ni khani Scottish missionary Reverend Thomas T. Torrance kha heng nam Chiang min te bula hen chenga Israel number 1 ni zia kha a shengal theya.
He found many Old Testament parallels between their way of worship.
An pathian biak dana te khanin pathian thu Bible mi nenin ang tam taka hmuwa.
But it was finding a Moses serpent rod that finally convinced Torrance that these people were actually Israelites.
Tiswang khang ho nam zinga khanin mo sia tiang mu wang khanin heng nam de Israel nam bo te nge an ni ti ka rin na ane zwal ta.
Okay, and so you can see on the screen here the Moses rod. My friend Daman Wu is in possession of two of them because he's a museum curator. So both of these rods are in a museum somewhere.
Etilaya kan lo muka show the photos. Hemi hi Israel rod ni ya hetiang hi to cha museum man da to ni.
So the next part I want to talk about is the Epic of Manasseh. In Kyrgyzstan, Richard Hewitt, who's our other presenter this morning, found over 300 striking biblical traditions in the Epic of Manasseh.
Manasseh te chanchen cho heta kan researcher po Richard Hewitt hianin na lo zir thwa Kyrgyzstan na khan lo zir thwa ka.
Okay, Manasseh's father was Jacob, and Manasseh of Kyrgyzstan's father was Jacob, and Manasseh was adopted by Jacob.
ที่ส่วนคิร์กิสถานมันน่าสปามิงจูเจคอบเตียนี่อ่ะจู่เจคอบปฏิมิงจังอันลักษณะนี่อ่ะ
Both had an exodus with 600,000 men in the exodus.
จุงแต่ส่วนอันจุงมิชิงปนิแต่ส่วนนี้ลัสอันสวากุมขานินมีป่าสิงรุกลายันในเวเวนี่
So Jacob in Kyrgyzstan had 2 brothers that had 12 sons altogether. 10 were agitators and 2 helped with flocks.
ที่ส่วนนี้คิร์กิสถานนะเจคอบส่วนนี้อุณาป่าปนิอันนี้อ่ะจุงแต่อันปนิเบลคอมส่วนนี้ฟ้าป่าสมเลปนิอันนี้อ่ะมีสมแต่ขานที่รัฐมีอันนี้จะมีปนิขานินเบรามเตเลบงวุลนาขานันจันปุยา
So of course in the Bible Jacob has 12 sons, 10 before his favourite wife, and then when his favourite wife was able to conceive, he had 2 more sons.
ไบเบิลอ่ะพวกขันเจก็ปะขานินฟ้าสมเลปนิอันนี้อ่ะฟ้าสมข้าอันนี้หัวขานินอันดุปุยมาไงจกเนี่ยนะข้าฟ้าปนิอันนี้เลตีกันหูค่ะ
Okay, so now I'm going to talk about the miso cookie. Whilst missionaries from southwest China and Burma were the ones to find Israelite traditions, it was 2 ethnographers from Manipur and Mizoram who documented the elders' Israelite traditions here.
ที่ส่วนมิโซเลคุกี้อินการาอิสราเอลที่เห็นในอันนี้ไล่จินนักกันหูส่วนนี้ไชน่าเลยบร์มาอินการาคันข้างเฮาเจจันนักอันนั้นคันอินกุ้งไก่นั่นเลยอินไหนนั่นสัตตักไม่ยันเราเนี่ยที่ส่วนอุปาเตนั้นหันสวดที่คันอุปาเตคันอินน้ำดันเลียดูนั้นหันกัลดันเตอันหันสวยคันอินอิสราเอลที่เนี่ยน่าอินไหนน่าหันเราเนี่ยน่าเสมมา
And of course both of them have passed away, and tomorrow morning about 10:40 we will be doing a tribute to Dr. Kuplan and Zaitang Chuni.
ช่วง researcher ปนิเตจุดตัวนัดส่วนนี้นั่นเราโจลตัวนักตู้กายเฮียนี่มันนี่ชาเริงนะหุ่นผู้คุบลินเล่ได้ทันช่วงนี้ตานชาเริงนะหุ่นกันในปุกัง
And so this is a letter that I have. It's in Mizo, so only Mizo people can read this. But my understanding is this is from the son of the cook of some missionaries back in the 1910, I think it is. And he overheard the missionary husband and wife talking about Israelite customs amongst the Mizo.
เฮมีฮิเลค่ะทุนนี้มิเจ้าจังเสียเนี่ยมิเจ้าเตะเสียแก่ใช้ทำก็ส่วนเสียเทียงเฮแต่ฮันนี่กุมสังขจักว่าสมเวลาคันนี้มิเจ้าเตเลอิสราเอลเตอินท่าอินอันนาทวนสวยนั่นเลยอันนี้สั่นชนดังขเสียกินเอามันนี่
And so the wife was speaking, and then the husband said to the wife, "I do not want you to say anything about the Israelite customs ever again."
เฮติยาอันนี้สวยเลยฮันนี่อันนุปุยโซขันนั้นจันจินขาสวยมาเสียภาษาส่วนนี้เฮทุเฮติยังทุฮิสวยตัวเราตัวริงกระดูเจนี่ฉันสุมิเจ้าเตลียคริสอิสราเอลเตอันนี้อันนั้นฮิขับมาสวยตัวสูอติยา
Okay, I don't know why he did that. We can only speculate.
สวยฉันกันเชลว่ารินดานกันไงกันเสียมไม่เทโซกันนี่
So the cookie ethnographer, an ethnographer just means somebody who records oral history. That's what an ethnographer is.
Cookie ethnographer เฮียว่ามาจะสุก ethnographer กันที่ส่วนนี้หุ่นกัลตัวส่งอาทิตย์เชียงเตลแล้ว record ตัวเฮียนเนี่ย
So Dr. Kuplan Milu Lengtan, am I saying that right? Spent 50 years collecting poems and chants.
Dr. Kuplan Milu Lengtan เฮียนี่ทูอันลันเตทูซ้ำเตทูเลี้ยหลาเตค่ะกุมสมกับชุ่งเหลี่ยมตามีค่ะแล้วก็เล็กจัดจ้ะ
And so the Mizo ethnographer is Zaitang Chuni. She met Rabbi Eliyahu Avikail in the early 1980s in Jerusalem, and he asked her to interview the old people. She has recorded her findings in her books.
Mizo ส่วนกัน ethnographer กันเนี่ยสุดใจทันช่วงนี้ค่ะนี่อันนี้ค่ะนี่ Rabbi Eliyahu Avikail แต่ค่ะกุมสังกัดจะกว่าสมเด็จค่ะนั่นแล้วหัว Mizo เตเนี่ยนะอันนี้กุนอันนี้อันดันเตะเจขัดจังค่ะนะเจร์บากะเลขบูเตค่ะอาเซียมันนี่
So I think Zaitang Chuni's book, I think there's maybe 20 copies left, and I think Dr. Kuplan's book was burnt in the fires. There's one copy here, but I think it was burnt in the fires in Manipur earlier this year, all the spare copies. So here's one of the poems or the songs that Dr. Copeland recorded. I crossed the river with a narrow pass. Be united and strong like a fine, refined iron, and carry it like a trophy with great joy and pride. We would not be popular since we have so many enemies. I fought many battles and wars continuously. We are the children of Manmasu.
This one in hemi he Dr. Copeland na poema collect zinga pakada niya chu lui te reute me hi kan ka na ta chuanin in lungrwa le chaktakin kan oma ne na kan changa niya ti chuan in do na tam tak kan to ka chumlo chatlawin kan beya ma se manase fate kan niya tia.
Okay. So part 2, the lost book peoples. 4 years ago, I presented a paper in Bishkek in Kyrgyzstan on the lost book peoples. That was into a predominantly Muslim culture, and I had quite a stir from the organizer because my paper was that the lost book was actually the Bible, so it caused a bit of a stir. Okay, so first of all, I want to talk about the Karen lost book story. Just to let you know, I lived in Thailand for over a year, and we've been back and forth to Thailand for many years. I have Karen friends. I have lots of Karen friends too. And so this is their story. They once had a golden book, and it was burnt. It was burnt when they were doing the Zoom. So that's Zoom, everybody understands Zoom? But they saved some of the pages, and so they took the pages inside, and they were still able to read some of this burnt book, but they allowed the pages of the book fell through the bamboo floor, and chickens and pigs ate it.
Karen housing I hang coming in was a comb to a Kangzi Ngakani and Sansin Mishla Lekabu boats and Sin and Nea Tutu, Rankazak Lekabu and Nea Mayro Tutu a Kangaraman Halna Khan, Su a Kangsu, art le Fokted and Nea and Soya.
Okay, and as I said before, they date themselves from the year after the Northern Kingdom went into captivity.
Anni po chuanin marlam lalram kha salatan kumachang khanin an hun kha an cher chau chana.
So I'll just go through these fast. The Kachin have a lost book. They said their forefathers lost a book.
Kachin ho khanin lekhabu bo san san ne yam pi am pu te ho khanin lekhabu chuan lo ti bawanin tia.
The Lahu said their creator gave them a book. The book of the law, and it was written on rice cakes, and during a famine they got hungry and ate it.
Lahu ho chuanin lekhabu chuan neya mai ro chu khati hun lai han chama ron thlengan ri la chama lekhabu chu le raisa choas changa samani wangin an eita nin tia.
The Wa await a white brother, like the Karen do. The Karen were waiting for a white brother to come with their lost book, and so do the Wa.
The Chuan Wa ho chuanin an unau pate karon leta lekhabu bo te ron pelet turin nambe seya karan hau namang khan.
The Shah and the Palau people. Is it Palau? Is that how you say that? Palaung. Palaung. Sorry. The Shan and the Palaung people looked to a fifth manifestation of Buddha who was spoken about in their scriptures that were lost during the war in Laos.
Shang le palong nam chuanin an Buddha kha aron thuron soina khati aron soiza voinga na khanin I an lekhabu bo chungchang aron shila chu chu in do na laos ne na nin do na khan lekhabu chuan ti bawanin tia.
The Kui tribesmen await a messenger who will bring their lost book back, and they have a special place of worship, as do the Lahu. They build these long houses so that when the one bringing the book comes, they have somewhere to worship.
The chuanin kyun ham ho chuanin an lekhabu bo kha mi pakhatin aron keng don an tia chumia tan so an lawin bat soya worship na hun tur chibai buk na hun tur lian takan lo sa ron thlen huna chu tiang chun ti an be an ring boka.
The Lisu in Yunnan province, China, believe a king, one day their own, would one day rule over them and restore their book in their own language.
So Lisu nam ho chuan in Yunnan province mi an ne kina chuan lal pakhat ron kalanga chu chuan an lekhabu bo aron pelet le anga an mani chong he in ziak toang ti nan ringa.
The Nagas consist of 24 tribes. One tribe, the ringmaster, a supreme being, gave his words to their forefathers on animal skins and dogs ate it.
Naga namin nam som ni palian niya ti chuan an rin dan chuanin an nam pakhat reng ma nam khanin an le khabu chu pa lal thunei takin a pe a chu savuna changa siam ani wangin ui na ne anin tia.
The Mizo researcher Zai Tang Chuni records the oral tradition of the Mizos, their leather scrolls in which their ancestral history of the tribes and families were written was lost due to continual slavery. They were left behind in labour camps when they fled China.
Researcher Mizo zinga kan ni zai than chungi kha chuan heti ha soi kan le kha bu bo kha le kha ziala nia chu kan pi le pu te kha mun sang sanga ra ka na an kal bo wang kha ni an tlan chan lama an ti bo ani an ti a chu an le kha bu bo te chu China ron tlan chiat lai kha ni an kal san ani an ti.
According to another legend, the leather scrolls were eaten by a dog of the keeper of the scrolls.
Thu danga an soi le dan chuanin kha le kha bu zial kha mi le kha bu zial veng tu ui te kha na nei zawani ti in zia kan ni po.
There was an emperor in China, Shi Huangdi, who burnt all the books except books on agriculture and medicine, and they relocated all their people all to different places in China.
Emperor China kan Emperor Shi Huangdi oma chu chuanin le khabu agriculture te dam doi lam zirna zong song kha hal ve ka mi pui te po kha mun sang sanga khanina son darani.
Okay, so he only kept his books on philosophy of legalism. He could have been known as a derogatory title of dog, and so therefore the stories that a dog ate the book may be referring to this emperor.
Ti chuan chu le pa chuanin amma le khabu chau dan le dun chau kha mana phala ti chuan kha lal pa kha aminga chuan ui ti dan phwa boka kha wang khanin ui na 18 nen khanin ai me bel thei aul sam hle ni.
So we need to ask, is this burning book episode etched into everybody's collective memories so that the peoples of the lost book have been passed down through tradition? What book was so important that the memory of it was passed down from parent to child?
Heng le khabu bo san sin nam tin hian an lo nei hi ko ka abodan te an lo in shil nei le khabu poi mo tak ni in alanga chu wan chai heng nam zong zong thian in an na pakhat an lo nei thei bokani.
There's lost book legends that connect the Mizos, the Kuki, and the Chin to Israel.
This one in Mizo Kuki le Chin te na le khabu ba wan nei hi in an tlan nan lo nei ve ka.
And it's through this book. Kuki ethnographer Dr. Kuplan writes about this lost book. He actually says that the sources of their poems and their chants, their Temtu Lapi, they're the reasons that they have them is because that they once had a scroll that was lost, and they're trying to keep the memory of it alive.
Kuki an ethnographer Dr. Kuplam khanin heng le khabu bo chung sang te o ka thuan lo in shil te le them thu ti te lapi an ti te thu le hla zong zong te achang hianin khoi chang lo kal nge an ni ti hi mu thei a be se ya.
Okay, and here's one of them. During the reign of Kupti Mangpa, the Red Sea had gone dry. Cloud in the day and fire in the night led the people.
Point pakhata chuan heti hianin zia ka kut pi khalal a om lai khanin Red Sea kha tui pui sen kha akang chata ti chuan mi te chu ol sam takin angkal kai thea zana engin a shwaya chuna chumdinga oma ti in.
And then it says that they had to get water from a rock because the people were thirsty.
Ti chuanin lungpui changin tui an lak chhuate angaya chan chu mi pui te khan tui hal wangin.
Okay. No doubt these peoples of the lost book are the people of the book, the Bible. The story of the Israelites is unmistakable in the preceding poem.
Ti chuan tuna poem te thule hla kan han siarang kan hangai tha ka chang khanin heng nam ho te hin nam bo Bible ina asoi nam bo te alo an ti kha an lo ni thei ani.
Zai Tang Chuni interviewed thousands of people in the 1980s, and contrary to her own beliefs, she believes that the elders here in Mizoram who remember the name Manasseh or Manasseh, along with many Hebrew-like customs, caused her to believe that the Mizzo's ancestors are the part of the famous lost tribes of Israel.
Zai than chungin mi sang chuak Mizoram chunga interview nei na khanin kum lama upazok te ania chung chuanin malaya ampi le pute na dan le dunan lo man dan te an chungka thuan lo in shil te le an thil lo chin dan zong zong te kha he Mizo nam te po hi Bible ina nam sombo a soi te jinga mi kha ni the ni tia.
And so now I'm going to talk about Central Asia, so Kyrgyzstan and Altai. Altai is in southern Siberia. They also have a lost book.
Tuna chuanin Kyrgyzstan sa Central Asia Kyrgyzstan te Altai nam te chungchang kan soi lenga chung ho po chuan le khabu bo chan chen an ne ya.
Okay, and so one of the versions goes, when the Kitai, which means northern China, when the Kitai, who say we are the only ones in this world who have knowledge, robbed the sacred fort and burnt sacred writings from the treasury, they said, may the darkness that is fallen on the Kyrgyz also come on their minds so they might not know another writing.
คือใต้ทำส่วนนี้อันมันนี่ Chinese tribals เนี่ยจุงเขาส่วนนี้ก็มันนี่เจ้าฮีอีมุนเทียงลิมรกาทิลเทียงลิมละชัวกามุนเทียงลิมมันจังทิลเจียกทุเจียกเทียงลิมตักละชัวเทียเด็กกันเนี่ยจุว่าจ้ากิกิสนำจุงเฮียนินเช็ดน่ะเราเทงเสละอันไงตัวน่ะเองมาเราเทงทิลที่เจียกเทียตัวเราตัวนี้น้ำรัวเส้นเดีย
So in other words, the Kyrgyz actually remember that the Chinese burnt their book.
จุมีอมเสียจุคาร์กิสเฮาขานี่นั่นเชื่อดันส่วนนี้ Chinese เฮาขานี่นั่นเล็กขบูขานหารัลสักนี่อันเดีย
Okay, so listen to this story of a lost book. North of Kyrgyzstan in Altai, they have a legend of a golden book, just like the Karen had a golden book.
กรณีรังกัจักเล็กขบูอันเนียงเจ้าขานินคาร์กิสเฮาขานินรังกัจักเล็กขบูอันเนีย
Okay, in their golden book is put into a golden chest and is reminiscent of the golden ark of the Bible.
ที่ส่วนนั้นเล็กขบูโบรังกัจักเล็กขบูจูรังกัจักบอมชุงอันดาจุนจูไบเบิลรังกัจักทุทุงบอมเนี่ยข้าในหนังเลีย
Okay. So the Mizos have a memory of a lost book. The Karen have a version of a burnt book. There's burnt books in China. There's the burnt books in the Epic of Manasseh. And so I think we're looking at the same story from many different angles.
มิโซเทนทำเล็กขบูโบจันสินันเนียคาเรนเทนอันเนียมุนช่างช่างอันนำช่างช่างเทนเล็กขบูโบจันสินอันเนียสุวรรณส่วนทีร์ดานัดล้างดังจังอินหันทีร์ไตละ
So Esther Chen's written a book called Sons of Sheep. You can download that if you come and see me afterwards. I have a copy of that. And she talks about the Quang men in China, just west of Chengdu. And they have very, very, very many Israelite customs. And what she said to me was a select group of very priestly families moved into the mountains in southwest China to preserve their customs so that their traditions and their history would not be lost.
Esther Chen Kanin a leg kabu, Sons of Sheep, Kanin, Diana Ziaka, Mitam Takta to China, Nam le dan le donte, Vonung Torin, Uncle Community in.
Okay, 100 years ago, Reverend Torrance watched a Yom Kippur-like ritual amongst the Quang Min, and when he was explaining to the priest from the book of Leviticus, chapter 16, it says that the priest jumped up and he says, "These are our lost scriptures."
Reverend Torres ka Quang Min Hao Damzinga Kanin Yom Kippur ang deu le kud an neya kan atela Leviticus bu han cher kanin am pui thiam chu aron ding chhuaka he hi kan le khabu bo zinga mi kha ni hi aron tia.
So he goes on to say that the book, the Bible, is actually the Bible of his people, and the lost scriptures are the Bible. And so he and his whole family become Christian.
จุมีอมเสียจูเล็กขบุบอันเราสวยชินขไบเบิลเฮียเราเนี่ยติดส่วนไบเบิลบุ้งเลี้ยจางอาจารย์อันเล็กขบุบอันหูเทตากาส่วนอามาเลยอาฟาเตอนุปุยเตอาชุ่งกว่าสงค่ะริงตัวเราเนี่ยตาเนี่ย
Okay, specifically to do with the Mizo and the cookies is a story of people having lived in caves.
มิโซเดเลกูคิดทำมาเฮียนินถ้าตัวเตะจังอินปูกันเราเจงชินติเสียเก่ามา
Okay, the Mizo researcher says that one of the old names of the Mizo was Jinlung, meaning cave dwellers.
researcher ที่นั้นเราเจอหน้าพวกขานินชินลุงชวกตีนมิเจ้าเตหิกันนินสวยชีนะจู่ๆปูกาเจงชินเตตีนานี่ไม่ยา
My friend Wu Damen in China translated Zai Tangchuni's book into Chinese, read about the reference to Xinlong, and he went and found, you can see on the map up there should be a map here, where the red dot is, that's Xinlong, Xinlong in China. So is it the famous Xinlong of the Mizos? Maybe.
China ก็แชมป์อุดงเฮียนินใจทันสุนเลียขบุค่ะ Chinese สินะเล็ดลิงจู่ๆอีชินลุงชวกตีเตะขานินอาหารสวยขานินจินลงชินChina ค่ะน้ำหุ่นชวกให้ไล่เมย์ประกันหัวแข่งคิดที่ไล่ขานินดดเซนอินเซียเคียนี่ติดส่วนนินสุมีเนี่ยส่วนนินชินลุงชวกตีเตะเฮียอินสมเทียงเงมอตีไงดันเตะอมเทีย
Okay, and so the Mizos sing songs like the famous Xinlong is my home, it is the land of my father and mother.
มิเจ้าจวนหลายให้ดิฉันมันหลายขนาดเราสัจฉินะชินลุงจูกันปีเลียปูเตเจนนะอันนี้กระมันีดีอิน
Okay, so the man in the light-coloured shirt is my friend Wu Damen, but the other man is a villager from Xinlong in China.
เฮดิลายอีกอร์อุกฮัจโจกีกแชมป์ปาวุตามันโซเนียจวนอับุลาดิงฮีใจเฮดิลายซินลองมีโซเนีย
Okay, and here's one of the many caves that are near this location. Have I got some? Oh, it's the same as the one on the banner. Here's another one with steps carved into the cave. And so historically, people lived in these caves hundreds of years ago.
เฮติไลซินลองหุ่นอาหานินปุกตับตะกอมาอันหันจิรชวขานินเฮปุกอาหานกุมเซเลียมตาขานินมีเดนเหลาเจงชินันอีดินหุ่นชวกะ
Okay, part 4, Manas as a common name.
ทุบปุยปลีนาปุยปลีนาส่วนนี้มันเนสติหิมิงกมลตะกันเนี่ย
Manas, Manmasi are common names from Central Asia, the Altai, Kyrgyzstan, Inner Mongolia, to northeast India amongst the Kuki, Mizo, Chin, and their associated clans.
มันนาซีมันมาซีติหิมิงกลางโลกตะกันเนี่ยจู่ๆเซนทรัลเอเชียเนี่ยใจเตะคิร์กิสถานเตะมองโกเลียเตะไชน่าเตะอินเดียรามาเตะโปเอเชียส่วนนี้นอร์ทอีสต์ส่วนนี้จีนคุกีมิโซเตะขานินเฮฮิกันเชตังโลโนเม
The Manas of the Kyrgyz, because that's what their name is, that he's the hero of their famous poem. The poem has let me work that out. It has 5 lakh lines in it.
อีมันน่าสติคิร์กิสถานอันทัวส่วนนี้หน่วยงาสวงไม่ฮิทัวทุ่มแล้วออกมา
Richard Hewitt, who's here with us today, found many hundreds of biblical parallels between Manas, who is often the hero of these stories, and the Bible.
จากกันซิงอมเฮริชาร์ดเฮวิเทียนินไออินอันนะอันทูเตเลไบเบิลคานินไออินอันนะเองโมซัดค่ะผู้ชอบบุกะ
So there's a statue of Manas, the hero, riding a horse.
ส่วนอันเลียมกันห่วงคานินมันเนสส่วนนี้นะสกอร์จุงช่วงคานออกมาจากสุกิกิสถานนั้นมันเนสส่วนนี้
Okay, so in the epic, here's one of the things that it writes. They journeyed to their places, the field of Manchuria, on the other side of Tibet. Not the slightest is heard from them.
ที่ส่วนนี้อันทัวร์ส่วนเหตุที่ในอินเดียก็ทิเบตมาแล้วทิเบตจะยินอันจินชัวก็ที่ส่วนมันจูเรียนมัวลันวัดเฮงอ่ะส่วนมีเปียละมาส่วนทิเบตออกมาคัตจังคานินคุยอย่างเงี้ยอันกัลตากันเชตาลาวนี่
So in other words, the people in Kyrgyzstan know they've got brothers on the other side of Tibet, and when every 2 or 3 years there's a festival in Kyrgyzstan on the epic of Manas, and you know they have people like me come and present, people like Richard come and present, and they often have dancers and singers that come from Tibet as part of the cultural display that they do there.
as om zabira chuan Kyrgyzstan chang khanin Tibeta ankal khanin ikhatilai hmuna khanin kumhni dana te khanin hetiang program ang hi an nei china zai mi dela mi te rong kala presenters munchang shang mi te ron kal china.
And so what's interesting are the people from Assam, that there's on the border of Bhutan there is a river called Manas. Is that right? And there's a national park called the National Park of Manas.
Asama khanin I Manas State Park National Park ka oma ti chuanin ramria khanin khatiak min kha om boka.
Okay. So getting back to the Mizos, Zaitang Chuni says, in the many chants used in various sacrifices, they call on the name Menashe, Manasseh, and it's often cited. The children of Manasseh offer thee blood sacrifices, O God of High.
Zai than chungi na le khapuzia ka pokhanin mizo namte khanin in thoina an ti don reng khanin manase ti mingte anrong kala manase fate kan ni e kan thisen karon peki uchungnung berdal pal nang in lopom ron ti china.
And so many more of these are presented in the papers that we will have at the end of this symposium. I'm just giving you a few. Dr. Kuplan, of course, dedicated his book to Manmassi. That's his book title, the top over there. We carry in our chest to the four corners, we carry the stones of the riverbed and we walk across. This sounds like the crossing of the Jordan River.
Dr. Kuplan kana le khabu chu heti lai kan huang hi nia athuzia ka khanin lungkha an om chen khanin am puwa munchang changa an da thote kha an soya chu chuan entir ni ber lang chu Jordan lui an kan hun lai khania.
And this poem ends with this statement: let wellness and good health always be with the children of Manmassi, your creation.
Ti chuan chu thu chu heti han a top an khara chu shi sel na le dam reina chu ifate Manasseh te chunga hianin om tirang chelal pa ti in.
Okay. Howard Chung will later in this symposium talk about whether the Manchu itself is actually a reference to Manasseh.
Howard Chung in the kina heti lai point thuron soinga chu chuan in Manasseh te le China de in na om thote aron soyanga.
Okay. Part 5 is the big wall. Mizos remember escaping through a hole they dug in a big wall. It appears many people were enslaved in China to build the Great Wall.
Ti chuan part 5 na chuanin bangliam pui chung chang kan strenga chu mizo te dan lawin shil chon na khan chuanin chu bangliam pui chu ker chuakin chu te chang chuanin an tlan chhuak an tia ta khan sala te an tanga.
Okay, and I just want to finish off with some common language. When I went to Kyrgyzstan, Bishkek, Kyrgyzstan in 2019, I took Michelle Vate, the singer. I took Charlie from Heritage, and Sita from Cardinal Choir. Took the three of them with me. Now they were being interviewed by two Kyrgyz people, and they overheard "toto," meaning stop fussing. And of course in Mizo, how do you say it?
Stop.
What?
It's enough.
What?
It's enough, okay.
Yeah? Tok. Okay, you say it. Yeah.
Okay.
Richard's going to say it in Kyrgyz, and
So in Kyrgyz they say tokto.
In Mizo we say tokto.
and same meaning, to stop fussing.
Kyrgyzstan khanin makuma khanin pri margo crossing te thanjin khanin local meet an hanin biak na khanin tokto ro du tokto ro ti ang hemizawin kan nei kha an nipon tokto ti nan lo soi ve thoni.
Okay. So in Kuki, Kuki they have the same name for ancient writing as they do in Kyrgyz. In Kuki it means the original book. In Kyrgyz it means ancient writing.
Kyrgyzstan le Kuki le Kyrgyzstan chong ina ngan nei chu bulpizam ti ania chu chu tora emo le khabu soina ni chu tiang cha son Kyrgyz ho pon bulpizam an lo ti ve ni.
Okay, so the conclusion is we've got stories, many connecting peoples of a lost book. We've got the same people having stories of the name Manasseh, Manmassi. We have the Karen dating themselves from the year of the Israel captivity. We have the cookies crossing the Red Sea. And we have the Quang Min having Yom Kippur rituals and holding a Moses rod. And we have very many biblical references in the Epic of Manasseh, as Richard will talk about later.
Chuanin atlang kom nan so heti hian han soi jok ta ila lekhabu bo chungchang te he nam song song hian an neya tin current chuanin hmarlam dal ram sal ta na changin an kumbi an chhai chan ti kan hmua tin chong shang sham bible changa in an dan te chuan China te Yom Kippur ang hun bi an lo chhar te le ku dan lo von dan te kan hmua chu mai pa ka Richard Hewidan na lekhabu chang le a research chang khanin thil in ang tam tak kan hmu ni.
Okay, and if you want to download the chapter about the Karen with all of their biblical poems, you can download it from this QR code.
A QR code chang hanin Karen how chungchang in shadow chuan in scan nga in download theyang.
Okay, and so thank you for listening, and we'll have some questions and answers.
Zona le chana hun kan nei don nya in ngai thla ka wangin kan lo me.
Okay.